even though people, say Lindor, but Carrasco is a very big part of that trade. So I think actually for the first month of the season, they'll treat him with kid gloves. They'll make sure that 100% is good when he's going because he happens to be one of the older pitchers on the staff. And you can see Joey Lucchesi fill in a little bit. So if you want someone to start for the first couple weeks, especially maybe even the second week of the season, because if you think about it, the first week of the season is 4 games for most formats. Second week of the season, you're going to have two-star pitchers being the fourth and fifth starter. Joey Lucchesi fits that.
If you're going to tell me that Carrasco's going to miss 2 starts to start the year, but he'll be okay, I think that the discount you're getting right now from his injury, people are afraid. Elbow, oh my God, go away. I think that he's probably going to be worth this discount here. Are you at all concerned that this is just could be a complete landmine where this is just a precursor to something more serious?
The reason why I'm saying that is because he started having the elbow soreness, and then like 3 or 4 days later, he was already throwing from 75 feet. So I'm not really concerned about that.
All right, so I think it could be a possible profit, mining for profit here for Carrasco, and you could be getting a nice 1A type pitcher for a number 2 price, that kind of thing.
Yes, 100%.
Right, Mike Soroka, what's his timetable here?
Well, Soroka tore his Achilles. He happened to be pitching against the Mets at Citi Field at the time, early August 2020. So far this spring, he has thrown 2 simulated games, but no real game action yet. So he hasn't actually faced batters in a game situation besides the sim games, which means that he probably may not be ready for opening day, which is what I have been saying all along. The Braves said that he possibly will be. I think he'll be back maybe 2 to 3 weeks into the season. In the meantime, Kyle Wright, who's been actually pitching quite well in spring training, may fill that role for a bit until Soroka's ready.
So tell me what happens after you have an Achilles injury for a pitcher. Obviously, elbow injury, shoulder injury, these are arm issues. These are bigger deals. Obviously, you're going off of your foot. That's no small thing. But is this something that pitchers pretty much, as soon as they're ready, go right back to full impact?
Well, they have to build the strength in both lower extremities and their legs before they go back. Otherwise, they're going to have issues. I think Adam Wainwright had this issue also, where he tore his Achilles, and he came back and he didn't have any issues. It's a matter of building up the lower body strength, and if he's able to do that, there should be no residual effects.
Okay, so he's projected, we're talking about Mike Soroka, he's projected for 136 innings, according to ATC. Are you going to go over or under on that number?
I'm going to say just under. I'll say maybe between 120 and 125.
Okay. I mean, but if he only misses a month, it's going to be more than 130 innings.
I don't think he's going to miss more than a month. I think he'll be back sometime either the end of April or beginning of May.
All right, because I think it might be over if that's the case. And at his price, he's projected for decent value. This is a guy who in 2019, 2.68 ERA, 111 WHIP, 175 innings pitched. Pretty much the ace of the Braves.
But the Braves have a lot of good arms there, so they can actually wait with him, and they're loaded, so they don't necessarily have to rush him back that quickly.
Okay, interesting. Of course, it depends on your league. If you have an IL slot, then it's probably going to be worth more because you can put somebody in, doesn't take up a spot. You have to roster him if there's no IL, and then you're taking a spot up. James Paxton, somebody who has top 25 ability pitchers, but he just doesn't seem to be able to stay healthy. We're projecting him for 125 innings, and he's a small bargain at that. So what is his injury price, and does he beat 125 innings this year?
Well, Paxton was dealing last year with an elbow forearm issue, but his UCL, meaning the ligament that usually is injured when you need Tommy John surgery, was intact. He has also thrown 2 simulated games without issue, just like Soroka. So he could possibly be in the same timeline as Soroka, just with different types of injuries. So you may also get some pretty good value from Paxton late.
Yeah, I'm coming across his name a lot in my drafts, and I think I have one share or so of him. Just somebody who has upside, and the price is right. I mean, you don't have to pay a 10th round value for him. He's going in the 16th round of 15-team drafts. I think it's a good gamble, good dart to throw at Paxton this year. Miles Michaelis. Yeah, I'm glad you agree. Miles Michaelis, he had that amazing year a couple years ago where he had a 107 whip, 2.87 ERA, not a lot of strikeouts. So unless he can get back to those ratios, he's really not worth having in especially in shallow mixed leagues. He's just a waiver wire play based on matchups, but can he get back to this skills level? And he's not 100% right now. What's his story?
Yeah, I'm a little bit nervous about owning Miles Michaelis right now because he had surgery on his right flexor tendon late July of 2020. He is now again being shut down from throwing for 7 to 10 days after undergoing an MRI. The MRI results weren't privy to me or to anybody at this point, but if they're shutting him down, that usually means there's some inflammation in the area where he had the surgery, so they're probably backing him off a little bit. But if that's happening now, that means he may be pushing it too quickly, and he may have an issue during the course of the season. So he's someone that I probably wouldn't draft, and someone I probably stay away from at this point.
Yeah, I agree. Nate Pearson of the Toronto Blue Jays, if they will play in Toronto this year, he's a guy who has electric stuff, and he reminds me of Dustin May. I feel like he should have more strikeouts for the stuff he has. I don't know why it's that way. Now, we have him projected here at 120 innings, and that's a nice little decent value. Are the Jays going to be able to push him more than 120 innings? Maybe they'll be in a playoff run. He's probably going to start the year on the IL, so why don't you give us the injury recap for him, and will he beat 120 innings?
Okay, well, Pearson was diagnosed with a grade 1 right groin strain. He has already been ruled out for opening day, but he did feel good after a recent throw. He threw a bullpen session. He felt okay, so that's a positive sign. But if they've already been ruled out for opening day, that means he's going to start the season on the IL. That doesn't mean he's not going to hit the 120 innings. He's still young, and if he's able to bounce back from this pretty quickly, it shouldn't be an issue. He's one of the younger pitchers on their staff. But guys to look out for right now, because he's starting the season on the IL, Steven Matz. He can fill in. Ross Stripling can fill in right now. So there are some decent, not great options, but there are decent options filling in right now for Pearson.
Yeah, I think it's a good upside dart. Again, he's going cheap. Cheaper than Paxton's going in drafts, and he's got the stuff. Again, especially if you have an IL slot, I think Pearson is a nice dart to throw. You agree?
I totally agree, especially if you have an IL spot. He is someone to hold on to. Even in an NFBC format, I probably hold on to him because he probably has a good chance of coming back without missing too much time.
Yeah, especially if there's some keeper value or dynasty value. Obviously, it's something else. TJ Antone, he's gaining helium all throughout this offseason. Question is, what will his role be on the team? Is he a multi-inning guy? Is he a starter? Is he a possible closer? What is going on with him?
Well, he left Sunday's game with a mild right groin strain. At first, they thought he was going to be out for a little bit, but now he's already expected to make his next start when it comes up. I think it's on Saturday. He was a candidate to be a closer. This may affect that. They may not try to push him too quickly because they don't want him to get any worse, and this may cost him the job of closer to start the season. That's not to say he's not going to end up as the closer, but this should lower his ADP just a bit.
Yeah, to me, I think he's more of the high leverage guy, come in anywhere. I don't think they're going to want to put him in the closer role, so I don't know what to do with him. I'm not drafting him. He's got great stuff, but I just don't know where they're going to put him is my problem here. Let's go to another guy, Framber Valdez. He's somebody that he got hurt, and I did not have him as high as the market, so I was hoping the market would just keep grabbing him at being overvalued. But of course, he's unfortunately he's injured right now. What are you doing with him? Is he somebody that you're just staying completely away from, taking a shot in your last pick of your draft? We saw at TGFBI, people just scramble and just pick up whatever they could at the very, very end only. Some TGFBI leagues that we played already picked him, so those guys had obviously have an issue. But what do we do? What's his issue, and what are we doing with Valdez?
Well, he has a fractured left ring finger from a comeback from early this spring. The Astros have still not offered any update on the timetable for his return. He's gotten a couple of opinions what to do. We don't know what's going on short term. We don't know what's going on long term. He's a guy that I would just stay away from because the first reports was that he was going to miss for the entire season. If you hear that right away and he's going for second opinions, yes, it's possible you can get something out of him, but it's also his ring finger. How much is that going to affect his pitching? So I wouldn't even take a waiver wire slot on him. I wouldn't take a dart even at the end of the draft. I'd rather try to get someone else at that point.
As far as fingers go, I mean, is the ring finger one of the worst ones to get hit if you're pitching?
Probably because that affects the change ups. That affects not much the curve, but the change up. It'll affect the slider a bit, how much spin they get on it, and so I would really be nervous about it. And even the fastball, if he's throwing 80, if he's throwing 90, 95 miles an hour, it's coming off that ring finger, and he's having pain in that finger, and he doesn't let it heal properly, or it's not healing properly, then he can have a chronic issue, and this can be another Aaron Sanchez issue, which Aaron Sanchez had finger problems for a couple years with the Blue Jays, and he just never got on track.
How about Forrest Whitley? He's a guy that I know you personally were very high on skills-wise, but again, he might be going under the knife, and it's very possible he may never pitch again. What's your take on Whitley?
Yeah, I was actually going to be high on Forrest Whitley that Framber Valdez got hurt, but then Whitley threw a simulated game, came up sore, and he's opted for Tommy John, and he will miss the entire 2021 season, which means I have no interest in him whatsoever, not even in a keeper league at this point, because we've been talking about players coming off of Tommy John surgery. When they come off of Tommy John surgery, even a year out, that's not a guarantee they're going to be back, and it's not a guarantee they're going to be back at where they are. And Forrest Whitley hasn't even cracked the majors at this point, so he's a guy I'd probably stay away from.
Yeah, that's a shame there. Let's talk about a couple of relief pitchers. Jordan Hicks. We mentioned that 22 pitch at bat at the outset of this show. That was Jordan Hicks pitching, and I got to tell you, looking at him, he looked pretty fluid. He was consistently hitting his regular 100 miles an hour. Looked pretty fluid. Question: is he the closer? I think he is. I think he's going to be the guy. I think the Cardinals want him to be. What's the injury update status of Jordan Hicks?
Well, that 22 at pitch at bat, that was his spring debut. That's why they didn't let him go much past that. He was hitting 100 on the radar gun. He was hitting 100 in the practice. He was been doing everything that they want him to do. I think the Cardinals are just going to bring him along a little bit slowly. He may not close in April, but he may be closing by May, June, and for the rest of the season. So until then, if you want to try to get some saves early on, there are so many different choices in that Cardinal bullpen that any one of them could be closer, but I think Giovanni Gallegos is probably the best chance to pick up the saves just for the first month.
You know, I'm going to disagree there. I think that he's going to be the closer from day one, but what they won't do is they won't have him pitch on back-to-back days, or maybe not even, one day in between. Maybe it's every third day at the most. So I would think that he would actually get the lion's share of the saves even from the get-go. Maybe Gallegos picks up the ones in between. But I think they're just going to let him start. And he's not starting the year on the IL. So
No.
If that's the case, why wouldn't you want to pitch him in the ninth?
That's true, but you may want to just ease him back in because remember, he didn't pitch at all in the 2020 season. He hasn't pitched since 2019. So you may want to start him in the eighth inning for the first couple of weeks just to get him back on his feet like every other closer who gets hurt and then see how things go. So that makes a pitcher like Giovanni Gallegos, who has value regardless whether he gets saves or not. But now that if he gets some saves in between it, and Jordan Hicks doesn't pitch every day, and he has to pitch every other day or every 2 or 3 days, that gives Giovanni Gallegos even more value. So he's a guy who you can look to in the draft.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree there. I think Hicks is going to get more of the shares in. Not to say that Gallegos, and I think you're right, Gallegos has value, but he does cost some money in drafts this year. He's not free at the end of the draft. You do have to either spend a regular spot or he's a high-up bench spot on him. So I like middle relievers on my team, but where they're absolutely free at the last pick or the waiver wire for nothing the first week. So I'm not a big fan of picking up Gallegos on my teams. I think you have him on TGFBI, I think?
Yes, I do. I picked him up because I think he's going to be the closer to start, yeah.
Okay, all right, well, let's see what happens. Kirby Yates, is he safe as the closer? Should we roster a handcuff? What's his injury status upon his return?
I believe he is safe. Kirby Yates had elbow surgery August 2020 for bone chips. He completed his rehab process, and he had made his spring debut last week. He has had no setbacks, and there's no reason why he can't be closer for the Blue Jays from day one.
All right. Trevor Rosenthal, what's his status?
He's dealing with a minor groin strain. He threw a successful
how many
bullpen.
groin strains? By the way, how many groin strains have there been
during spring training? During spring training, everyone is coming up with all these muscle injuries and little things, little things going on, not really fractures, not really things needing surgery. But this is
Yeah.
exactly what Stefania Bell said in our previous episode, that a lot of these players are going to have these muscular issues. They're going to have these strains for ligaments and tendons just because of not having a full season last year and the whole season, the starting and the stopping last year.